kind introduction, for your leadership. And thank you to CPOA for what you do, what now 25,000 members, the top leadership in this state. You represent a force for good, for law, for safety in our country, and that's what it's all about for us. I want to thank other law enforcement leaders who are here today. Sheriff Bill Brown of the California Sheriff's Association, Chief Ed Madrano of the California Chiefs of Police Association, Mark Brewster of the California Narcotics Officers Association, District Attorney Tom Reby of the California District Attorneys Association, and Commissioner Warren Stanley of the California Highway Patrol. That's a good group, and I'm honored to be with you in this association. McGregor Scott is a great leader in the Department of Justice. I learned about him before I took office, and we were talking about talent around the country and people who could do things to make America better. You have clearly, by reputation, I think he'll prove once again to be one of the very finest United States attorneys in our country. Also, I would note that California is a big state, an important state, and it's important that we have safety and order here, and we need talented United States attorneys, and that will be our goal. And one more thing I would say to you, a directive I've given to every one of our Washington prosecutors and staff and to our United States attorneys around the country, that we are partners with you, that we're going to establish a kind of law enforcement partnership that will be effective in making our communities safer. I know firsthand the importance of the work that you do. I know its dangers, its challenges, its frustrations and satisfactions. I've had firsthand experience in these matters working with your colleagues in Alabama. I've sat by them in trials. I've interviewed them late at night. We've talked about the challenges and the realities of the world that you and your officers work in. And I have inexpressible pride in the federal women and men of law enforcement. They are talented and provide such great leadership and work throughout our country. I am fully aware that 85% of all our state and all our law officers are state and federal. And I'm well aware that the increased training, professionalism, leadership, and more effective law enforcement policies of our departments nationwide, your departments, over several decades, has been a critical factor in reversing the dramatic rise in crime that we saw in the 60s and 70s, and I started out as a young prosecutor in the late 70s. Then over a 22-year period, we saw homicide rates cut by half, we saw drug use fall basically by half, and violent crime fall dramatically throughout this country. It was an achievement few people ever expected could happen in those days when we were there, and it was increasing every year. Much of the transformative leadership for this change arose from your former governor, President Ronald Reagan, and aided by his fabulous counselor and later Attorney General of the United States, Ed Meese. Thank you for both of them. They've made America a better and safer place, no doubt. Ed Meese continues to be active in Washington. He is an intellectual force when it comes to crime, and I value his judgment and friendship highly. So, in recent years, I don't know, maybe we got complacent, took our eye off the ball, but recent trends in crime are worrisome. In 2014 and 15, violent crime stopped falling and jumped 7% nationwide. Homicides surged 20% in those 2 years, the largest increase since 1968. Drug availability rose, drug purity rose, drug prices fell. These are not good trends. And along with the new killer drug fentanyl, overdose deaths reached levels we have never seen before. 66,000 last year. The largest cause of death for Americans aged 50 and below is overdose drug deaths. This is why on his first day in office, President Trump sent me 3 executive orders. He knows how to send orders, and we intend to follow. 1, back the men and women in blue. let's make sure that the people, law officers throughout this country, know we support you, we value what you do, and we're behind you. Reduce crime in America. That's a pretty simple directive. Reduce crime in America. Not preside over ever-increasing increases, and to dismantle transnational criminal gangs and organizations. So we embrace those goals at the Department of Justice, and we hope that you do too, and we know you do. So let me be explicit. Our express goal is to reduce thereafter. Thus, the good and decent people of this country are right to insist that this country and its officials should end the illegality, create a rational immigration flow, protect the nation from criminal aliens, and preserve the national interest. It cannot be that someone who illegally crosses the border and 2 days later arrives in Sacramento, Dubuque, Louisville, Central, Islip, New York, is home free, never to be removed. How can that be? It cannot be the policy of a great nation to up and reward those who unlawfully enter its country with legal status, Social Security, welfare, food stamps, work permits, and so forth. How can this be a sound policy? Meanwhile, those who engage in the process lawfully and patiently and wait their turn are discriminated against, it seems, at every turn. Most Americans get this. They are working hard to make ends meet, follow the rules. They teach their children to follow the rules. They believe in the rule of law. And they want to keep their loved ones safe. They, our citizens, want our government to think about them for a change, to think about their interest for a change. They have dreams too. Frankly, the common sense concept, this concept was a big part of President Trump's election. And elections have consequences. I think the American people spoke about this subject. Immigration law is the province of the federal government. It's in the Constitution. This administration and this Justice Department are determined to make it work effectively for all our people. I understand that we have a wide variety of political opinions out there on immigration, but the law is in the books, and its purposes are clear and just. There is no nullification. There is no secession. Federal law is the supreme law of the land. I would invite any doubters to go to Gettysburg or to the tombstones of John C. Calhoun and Abraham Lincoln. This matter has been settled. A refusal to apprehend and deport those, especially the criminal element, effectively rejects all immigration law. Bragging about and encouraging the obstruction of our law enforcement, the law is, I'm afraid this is an embarrassment to the proud state of California. Tom Homan, the director of ICE, has said recently, quote, being a law enforcement officer is already dangerous enough, but to give the criminals a heads up that we're coming in the next 24 hours increases that risk. I watched the mayor's statement when she said her priority is the safety of carrying out federal law. California cannot forbid them or obstruct them in doing their jobs. Just imagine if a state passed a law forbidding employers for cooperating with OSHA in ensuring workplace safety, or the Environmental Protection Agency for looking after polluters. Would you pass a law to do that? And just think about the situation it puts California employers in. They want to help law enforcement. They want to do their civic duty. We ought to be encouraging them and thankful to them. But your state attorney general has repeatedly promised to prosecute these business owners. Let me quote what he said more than once. Ignorance of the law is no excuse if you violate it. Quote, you are subjecting yourselves to up to $10,000 in fines for violations. So this is a great state. I don't want to be in this position of having to challenge these laws. It wasn't something I chose to do, but I can't sit by idly while the lawful authority of federal officers are being blocked by legislative acts and politicians. California has also claimed authority to inspect facilities where ICE holds people in custody. Already this year, California has specifically and in a discriminatory manner targeted 6 facilities and demanded documents and other materials from the Department of Homeland Security. California won't let law enforcement officers like you and your people to transfer prisoners to ICE custody or even to communicate with ICE that you're about to release them from your custody, people that ICE is looking for. Remember that California found these people dangerous enough to detain them in the first place, but then insist on releasing them back into the community instead of allowing federal officers to remove them safely. And rather than allow ICE officers to do their jobs with the transfers at the jailhouse, they force our officers to conduct more dangerous arrests elsewhere where violent criminals may reside and where children can be caught in a crossfire. That's just not unconstitutional. It's a plain violation of federal statute and a violation of common sense, a violation of good partnership that we need to build between state and federal officers. Importantly, the laws are harmful to Californians, and they're especially harmful to our law enforcement, your law enforcement. So that's why the department filed a suit against the state of California to invalidate these unjust laws and to immediately freeze their effect. Federal agents must be able to do the job that Congress directed them to do. Contrary to what you might hear from open borders radicals, we are not asking California, Oakland, or anyone else to actually effectively enforce immigration laws, although we would welcome the positive assistance the majority of jurisdictions in America provide to our federal officers. We would certainly like that. But ICE agents do incredible work every day. They're not backing down. They're not going to be deterred. And we're not going to stop enforcing the law in Alabama or California either, for that matter. We're simply asking the state and other sanctuary jurisdictions to stop actively obstructing federal law enforcement. Stop treating immigration agents differently from everybody else for the purpose of eviscerating border and immigration laws and advancing an open borders philosophy shared by only a few, the most radical extremists. Stop protecting lawbreakers and giving all officers more dangerous work to do so that politicians can score political points on the backs of officer safety. I can't accept that. You are professionals. You know the risk that we're talking about. You know the reality of what happens on the street and how your officers operate and how our federal officers operate. Think about the scene of an officer knocking on a door to execute a warrant. They don't know what's on the other side of that door. It's not fair to them to be putting them in a situation like that by releasing criminal aliens into the community who shouldn't even be in the country. I signed condolence letters for law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty. I signed 2 yesterday. I fundamentally